your drivers do not come. They ask you ki, where do you want to go. They ask you, are you going to pay online, are you going to pay cash, and based on that they'll tell you, okay, I'll go or I'll not go.
मैं
Right?
अपनी
So
मर्जी
that's
का मालिक हूँ type.
exactly.
There's an app for everything these days, whether it's a late night snack or an early morning pickup to office or a working capital loan for a store or just praying before an exam. That leads me to think, what's left for someone today to create a startup that services some unique need or addresses a hidden customer pain point? There was a funding winter last year, but that's not stopped the total number of startups operating in India crossing over 1.25 lakh, which indicates to me that despite there being more powerful gabbars to face, India's many Jays, Virus or Basantis are willing to step up and not just play but sometimes beat the big players at their own game. So today, we feature one such story and possibly explore the reasons behind why the most searched keyword on a matrimonial site is not IAS or IPS, but, yes, you guessed it, startup founder. Welcome to Crafting Bharat, a startup guide powered by AWS. I'm your host, Gautam Srinivasan. Our guest today is on the hunt for talented developers to join his team in the next phase of growth. So if you speak the language of algorithms or dream of code, and if you'd like to reach out to him, please don't ask me for his number. First, listen to this show. After all, he's only building India's first all-electric shared smart mobility platform with his co-founders. Choti si baat hai, but still, let's virtually put our hands together for Rishabh Sood of BluSmart. Rishabh, welcome to Crafting Bharat.
Thank you, Gautam. Thank you for the kind and generous words. Thank you for having me here.
Let's see if you still say that. All right. So, how do you put on your game face, look in the mirror, and say, "Kabhi kabhi lagta hai apuni bhagwan hai," as you go up against much bigger competitors? Let's find out in our first segment titled The Incubator. All right, Rishabh, let's discuss your chai pe charcha, the first chai pe charcha that you would have had with Puneet and Anmol, especially when this idea comes up, because I guess you and Anirudh were running a sports tech startup, Khelfi. So take us through that conversation, the most memorable part of that conversation.
Yeah.
Brother.
So what happened was, we were exiting Khelfi at that time, and we wanted to figure out what do we want to do next, right? And that's where we had reached out to Puneet Jaggi, who's Anmol's brother, for advice. He was a college senior of ours, and he was also involved in the Gensol business of theirs. So we just wanted to get some perspective from him as to, what do we do next in life? And he said, okay, come on, aake milo. And he gave us time Monday morning, 8 a.m., right? So very early on the Monday morning. So took an Uber to go, obviously reached late, reached around 8:15. But then the conversation was, he told us that, we're building a ride hailing company, and that is in middle of, you have two very big, huge players in India. And then he said, ki ride, why are we doing it, right? So there are many problems that you face today. One is that your drivers do not come. They ask you ki, where do you want to go. They ask you, are you going to pay online, are you going to pay cash, and based on that they'll tell you, okay, I'll go or I'll not go. Right? So that's exactly right. So that was problem number one. Problem number two, if in case the driver decides to come and pick you up, the condition of the car was pathetic. Dirty cars with lot of dents, seat covers are off. So again, and you are paying a bomb. The search pricing during the morning is crazy. It could be 2x, 3x, anything, right? So A, you are paying massively. B, you're not getting the value you need. And C, you are not getting the respect you need. The driver partners were also not behaving well with you. So we said, great, absolutely bang on. This is something which is worth solving. And then on the driver partner side, they were earning a very high amount early on. They started by earning 1 lakh rupees, then it came to 60, 50, whatever. And finally, they ended up making, 20,000 take home or something, right? So they were also very unhappy. So, I mean, it was a problem worth solving, but we were like, how are you going to solve it, right? How do you even imagine that you are going to take on two of the biggest players out there in India?
So, ये ऐसा बत्ती वाला moment कौन सा था? When you say I'm going to take on the biggest two players, what is that one aha moment that yeah, ये करने वाले हैं हम?
At that point of time, honestly, I did not really believe that we will be able to do this. But for me, it was all about the opportunity of building that technology, right? He's getting that opportunity to building a ride-hailing technology ground up, which is going to be fundamentally different from what exists today, right? That is something which really appealed to me. Honestly, at that point of time, I did not know how long were we going to survive, but then the conversation was कि ठीक है try कर लो
You
एक
went
महीना काम
along
करो
for the ride. पता
yeah
नहीं
yeah
आगे क्या है, but you just went
हाँ
on
so
that road trip.
just the thing that the intellectual part of it appealed extremely well to me and we said okay ठीक है try करते हैं we'll do
चलिए
एक
शुरुआत
दो
करते
महीने
हैं.
करेंगे and 9 a.m. we started working that day Monday morning 8:15 I reached there 9 a.m. I was at work and then it just we went with the flow and each and every day we became more and more confident that this is really going to become something big. So that's how the journey began
And
for
they
us.
say the rest is history. All right. I was speaking with Anirudh, in fact, on a panel on how BluSmart went up against the big competitors at the start, and he described that BluSmart hardly had 70 cars on the road, 200 customers early on. Many of them are on the founder's speed dial. वो क्या होता है कि okay, then you have a nice close connect with your customers and that's where your cred starts getting built. But a lot of startups face this issue ki early on you're quite close to your customers but you're rapidly scaling up, so staying close to your customers then becomes something you need to be more conscious about ki kaise kare. Earlier it's more intimate, now it's more broad ranging. So your thoughts on how you scaled up while remaining close to customers in identifying their pain points, solving their issues and keeping the product relevant.
Yeah. So see, the idea is when you scale, you need to do things which do not scale, right? So many companies, what they do is when they scale, they start looking at customers as data points. So why are my customers unhappy? They'll make a pie chart and they'll say, okay, 20% ye, 15% ye, 5% ye. We also did that, but what we also did was we always tried to maintain our on-ground connect. So we would become customer support agents for a day and receive customer complaints, feel the pain, feel the anger, empathize. Our team would also become drivers for a day. Even today in April, we have an initiative going on where 60 people from the organization are going and becoming a driver for a day, actually driving a car and picking up customers and experiencing firsthand what are the pain points of both the driver partners and the customers. Right? So this is what kind of helps us to stay relevant. We physically go through individual complaints. The idea is you've captured the emotion, right? So when you start looking at suggestions or feedback as data points and as pie charts, you lose the emotion out of it. So the idea is to keep the empathy and the emotion alive, and these are some of the things we do. We speak to customers. Recently we had a lunch with some of our top customers in Delhi, so we do many of these things which helps us to stay relevant.
तो ये लेट आने में was there an advantage because you saw what's happening with the established folks, right? Your USP is your 100% emission free, zero ride denials and transparent pricing, which is great, which is what is building your brand value. But from this coming late perspective, because you got to see what are the issues, right? But as you mentioned, the cash versus online option, drivers being forced to own their cars, so going asset light makes more sense. So was arriving late actually a boon in disguise for you guys?
Absolutely. I mean, if the problems did not exist, there was no reason for us to even arrive. The sole reason why we arrived was because the problems existed, and by arriving late, we knew what are the things which we don't need to do, right? So we had to fundamentally go back and think, how can these problems be solved? If we just built the same tech, if we built an aggregator model, if we got driver partners with their own cars, we will end up being with the same problems. So we fundamentally changed the business model and built technology for it grounds up, and that is what really helped us. We figured out that we need to have the cars in our control, right? That way we can make sure that the condition is extremely good, they are extremely well maintained. We are also able to make sure that we get cars at better financial terms as compared to the driver partners, right? Because they are not the experts in that. Then we are also able to utilize the asset more. So the advantage we have is our one car is driven by approximately 1.4 drivers. So our driver to car ratio is 1.4:1. So this again fundamentally helps our unit economics. So these are just some of the things which we learned from the mistakes of our competitors, and we were able to bring them in and then bridge the gap and come up with something fundamentally different. And then yes, the schedule model, that was a game changer for us. And the reason for us to do a schedule model was because you cannot do real time ride hail with 70 cars
That
on
always
road.
available doesn't
Right.
work.
And customers loved it, because all the use cases are scheduled use cases. You want to go to office every day of the week, you pretty much leave the same time. You want to go to an airport, you want to go pick up or drop your kids at school, you want to go to the hospital, all of these are pre-planned use cases, right? So these are some things which we were able to capture by going into a schedule model.
And it's mission critical use cases, right?
Exactly.
But I want to pick on the point you mentioned on unit economics, because a lot of the times the startup founders, they get lost in the woods for trees, unit economics being an example, because when there was this growth narrative, there's money chasing customers, DAU, MAU, sab us par focus aata hai. But when you look at it, the narrative now, it's more profitability focus, right? So in your opinion, how should, say, startup founders manage these conversations with VCs when they say, show me the money? So as a startup founder, when you say a flower hai, jhukega nahi, that kind of...
So I believe, see, narratives keep changing, we keep switching between profitability, growth, narratives. As a founder, you need to be prepared for both. You cannot focus on one and leave the other. Growth is extremely important. If you don't grow, someone else will come and, leave you behind. If you are not profitable, you will run in a scenario where you're not raising any money and then you have to shut down. So you need to focus on both, keep a fine balance between the both of them, and eventually see if you believe that what the model which you have, as you scale, the unit economics are going to get better. Absolutely, you should throw in the money and scale rapidly, but you need to have things under control.
All right, let's talk about expansion, because you're all electric fleet that got you the street cred as a brand that's futuristic and green. Your target, I believe, is 10,000 EVs by 2025. Now, during this scale up, how is AWS enabling BluSmart to power up its backend to overcome issues which arrive, when you look at quick ride matching, zero downtime, etc., and give you, or rather help you save operational costs while supporting your net zero ambitions?
So AWS has been a really trusted and supportive partner for us right from day one. Right from day one, when we were a very young company, we were engaging with their team. They were very, very helpful for us. What AWS allowed us to do was, focus on building the core technology and leave the infrastructure and the scalability part of it to the hands of the experts, which are able to, do it better. We've built a lot of technology, machine learning algorithms. So our entire scheduled ride model, right? Making sure that the car reaches on time. Making sure that, 97% of our rides actually are reaching on time. We do zero cancellations. We need to predict that. While I know that right now, from this point of time, if I need to go to the airport, I know how much time it's going to take me. But what will it take me 5 o'clock in the morning tomorrow? What will it take me 5 p.m. in the evening the next day, right? So these are things for which we actually built out machine learning models, which we are running on AWS infrastructure. And it's been running very, very smoothly for us. Auto scaling of infrastructure really helps us as well, because mobility has peaks. So in the morning, everybody is going out, is on the road. In the evening, again, everybody is on the road. Nights are lean times, holidays are lean times. So infrastructure scales up and scales down as per the demand of the hour, and that really helps us in cost saving as well.
All right, smooth experience in the back end for a smooth experience on the front end. All right. Before we wrap up the incubator segment, your thoughts on Gen AI, because we do see use cases on route optimization and autonomous driving and so on, customer experience and so on and so forth. But from a business model perspective, in terms of, the unique opportunities that Gen AI can open up for BluSmart, what's your view on that?
Sure. So right now we are more focused on use cases which are more generic in nature. We believe that Gen AI is definitely here to stay and is going to change the way fundamentally businesses are running going forward. Today, all of our developers use Gen AI tools to actually write code, because they know that if we don't do that, some young developer who's going to pass out of college is going to do better than them, right? The new generation of engineers who are coming in, they are going to be using Gen AI. Similarly, for our business analytics, right? We are building a Gen AI platform where people can just plug in their queries in natural language and get answers with all the analytics and graph. And you don't need a data analyst to do that, right? So these are some of the use cases which we are building in-house. Then again, customer support, customer experience, personalization, these are again things we are exploring. We're still in early stages of that, but the idea is fundamentally all of the way we are thinking about Gen AI, the entire org needs to think about it. It's not just the tech team, the developer, the engineer. As a org, we need to see how Gen AI can help us in different things. So there's a lot which is going to happen in future. We are starting off with a few small steps, and let's see how it goes from there.
अभी तो बस झांकी है, picture अभी बाकी है. I can never get tired of saying that. But a good point that Gen AI is more an org play rather than just a departmental play. Well, that's your 15-minute playlist on running a successful startup with Rishabh Sood of BluSmart, India's first all-electric shared smart mobility platform. Well, from stairway to heaven, let's jump across the highway to hell. How about some rapid-fire questions for the next 5 minutes, Rishabh? Sure. All right, thumbs up. As they say, if everything seems under control, you're not going fast enough. Time now for our next segment titled The Accelerator. You love cricket. Similarities that you see between cricket and business?
I mean, many. I mean, to start with, you know.
ये buzzer है, दो दे दीजिए. Buzzer है.
Sure,
Give me
sure.
two best.
Sure. So let's take the IPL. You know, which team has spent the most amount of money in IPL in buying players?
देखा जाए तो RCB बोल सकते हैं.
Right. So I think it's RCB, right? And how many titles they have won? Everyone knows that.
Ooh, sensitive. Gut punch. But please go ahead.
And then you look at a team like CSK, which is like 5th or 6th in the ranking, and they have been the most successful IPL team, arguably. You know, so what that tells us, that the company which has the most funding, is the most well capitalized, may have the best employees, need not necessarily win, right? It's the company which performs as a team, which is agile, which is nimble, where the people are aligned, culturally aligned in growing the company, in doing what needs to be done on that particular day, in that particular over. You know, someday you open, someday you come at number 4, someday you need to hit like 3 sixes in an over. That's the company which wins, right? So that's a big learning which you get from the cricket space.
All right, be CSK, not RCB. Thoda dukh hoga, but we'll manage. All right, let's look at this expansion strategy question, because startup founders want to grow big, grow fast, and then they end up burning their cash runway. What are the lessons that we can learn from BluSmart's expansion strategy? Some who might look at it might say it's slow. What do you think?
So see, what we didn't go into 15 cities with 500 cars. You know, we went into just 2 cities. We started with Delhi. Today we have 7,000 cars spread across just two cities, Delhi and Bangalore. But these are big markets, you know. If you are able to succeed in Delhi, there is no reason why you will not be able to go to any other city and succeed, right? So we built a model where we proved ourselves. We went through the journey, you know, from 0 to 1, 1 to 10, and we created a replicable model which can pretty much go anywhere and everywhere, right? So that's what you need to do. Even when you are going slow, you need to build things with scale.
All right, even if it's slow, always look at the scale equation to grow. Now, looking at this question of if you are ahead of the curve when it comes to a business idea, like say BluSmart was with EVs, how do you handle that conversation with investors, you know, making them stick with you till the time is right?
So interesting question. You know, you don't need to convince all the investors that you will succeed. Eventually, you need to persist and persist and persist, and you just need to convince one, right? So a lot of people were not interested in us. They were like, Uber hai, Ola hai, aap kya karoge? But eventually we were able to convince some, and you know, they came in our journey and they are really enjoying the ride. So that's how it is, you know, keep persisting. The market is big enough. As long as you are operating in a big enough market with the right idea and the right differentiation, you are going to succeed eventually.
All right, lage raho startup bhai, that's the message. All right, what's the best mantra to maintain long lasting co-founder relationship, and is there a sort of an ideal size of the founding team in your
So I've
experience?
seen companies with solo founders doing great. I've seen companies with 4 co-founders doing great. So I don't think there is any magic number. Uh, I think what it really boils down is trusting each other. You need to really have confidence in the ability of each other, but at the same time, you need to question and push each other as well, right? So you need to maintain that balance. You need to trust, but you need to really push and ask questions. So that is how it has worked out for the 5 of us who are there.
Like
But
any relationship,
yeah.
transparency ki zarurat hai. All right, what's your view on the unicorn tag which startups vie to achieve? One startup founder I spoke to much earlier, he is not a big fan of that tag.
So see, I believe unicorn is a starting point. It's not the end point. A lot of companies, or I mean, at least the people have started seeing achieving unicorn as having made it, right? But as a founder, what's your dharma? Your dharma is to make money for your shareholders, right, including yourself. And you need to do that, you need to go to 4 billion, 10 billion, 15 billion, and not stop. You should keep persisting, right? So 1 billion is just it's just a stop in the journey, but there's a lot to do beyond that. So you really need to build sustainable business, which is going to go, take it much longer, and not do things which will take you to 1 billion and then you're going to come crashing down and then finish.
Reminds me of that old कर्मण्येवाधिकारस्ते मा फलेषु कदाचन. अर्थात कर्म की चिंता कर, फल की चिंता मत कर. All right, that's your soundbite delight on crafting Bharat, a startup guide with Rishabh Sood of BluSmart. Well, this has been a 5-star journey so far with Rishabh and BluSmart. Let's get an added bonus with Rishabh giving tips as he responds to questions sent by our audience in our final segment called The Advisor. Right, our first question comes from Aditya from Fard Network. He asks, how do you think EV model is changing in India, and why are companies going to more leasing options?
So see, we need to understand how EVs and ICs are different fundamentally, right? EVs have a higher upfront cost and then very low monthly maintenance costs or fuel costs. It's almost negligible. Whereas ICs have a lower upfront cost and then higher maintenance and fuel costs going along. And in the end, the total cost of ownership of an EV over its lifetime comes out to be lower, right? But that higher upfront cost is a challenge. So to cover that, a leasing model really helps out people in adopting the technology. Secondly, again, this is a new market. People are not confident about ki resale hoga ki nahi, second hand value kya hai. Some people just want to try out the product. Everyone has tried an IC car, but people have not really tried an EV car. So I think that's why the leasing model is really going to help promote EVs for the long run.
All right, lambi race ka ghoda. Our second question comes from Kunal Arora, an angel investor and startup mentor, and he asks, if BluSmart must expand in the next 5 cities, rate the following factors in the order of relevance that you are looking at. So the first option given is customer profiles, then average ride distances for economics of scale, then another EV fleet of custom existing charges. Your thoughts on this?
So see, we build our own charging stations. Obviously, if they're present, it's great. If they're not present, we build for us, we build for others. We don't care about if there is another EV operator there. We are competing on customer service. We are not competing on being EV or non-EV. For us, I think the price has to be big enough. The market needs to be big enough for us. And our ability to create a difference, to give a significant delta in experience over what already exists in the market needs to be there. If these 2 conditions are met, then we'll definitely enter that city.
All right, a succinct formula to succeed provided by our guest. Our third question comes from Ajit Khurana, an angel investor and founder of Reflexical, and he asks, electric vehicles are facing a global backlash as experts now claim that they were expected to be, from the environmental point of view, more supportive of that. Where do you see this discussion headed?
So, I mean, obviously, there is some noise which is coming that, okay, EVs are not as sustainable as it is being claimed, but there are a lot of studies which show that over the life of running a EV, they are much more environment friendly. Secondly, our entire power is migrating to renewable energy, right? Going forward 10, 20 years down the line, the share of the renewable energy power is going to increase significantly. In fact, BluSmart today uses 100% renewable power to charge the cars, right? All our charging is through renewable energy. So when these things happen and battery technology is going to improve, secondary use case of batteries are going to increase. So all of these things are only going to make it much, much better for EVs. It's already better, but going forward, it's not even going to be a debate.
All right, that brings us to the end of this episode of Crafting Bharat, a startup guide powered by AWS. This podcast is an initiative of NewsReach. Rishabh, thank you so much for joining us. And while there are no discount coupons or promotions available so far, to all those who have tuned in, we hope the experiences and insights shared by Rishabh more than make up for it. Thank you so much, Rishabh.
Thank you, Gautam. Thank you so much.
And thank you to our audience for joining us. Do like, share, and subscribe to our channel for the inside story on startups that have made it big. Till next time, this is your host Gautam Srinivasan signing off. Crafting Bharat, a startup guide powered by AWS, is an initiative of NewsReach in association with VC Circle, produced by HT Smartcast. The director and executive producer of this show is Deepthi Ahuja. The assistant producer is Veda Mohan. The video editor on this show is Puljit Singh. And the audio editor is Amrinder Singh.